Mike Kogan. I am a psychologist. A lot of people say it's a therapist. A lot of people will say counselor. But basically, I help people deal with psychological problems, and that is my title.
What inspired you to get into the mental health field?
I tell you, I've always enjoyed working with people. I always enjoyed, interestingly enough, listening to people, and I've always found this interesting dynamic where people would come to me and wanted to share things with me, and problems or good things and bad things, issues they were been dealing with or different problems they've been dealing with. So I've always kind of avoided, and I kind of did it as as a side activity, so to speak, to everything else I was doing. Let's say I was doing sales, I was doing computer work, I was doing IT, I was doing all kinds of businesses previously prior to this, but always ended up dealing with people. And I said it's at this point, approximately more than 10 years ago at this point, I said, this is something I'd like to dedicate my life to, and I actually want to focus and concentrate on this. And that's what I've done. And I put myself through school. I actually went back to college. I've got two more degrees in psychology specifically. And, that being the case, I, I wanted to make it my life's work. And I'm so happy I've done that because I actually I almost want to say found myself as a calling. And what I found that is actually it works. And I see that it's not only am I able to help people, but I'm actually able to help myself. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words, I sort of found myself entirely dedicated and connected to this field. And I only wish I had done that sooner. Unfortunately, I had not, but it doesn't matter. And I've done it now. But I'm totally dedicated and totally, immersed into it. And that's what I do now pretty much full time.
What is it like getting to know people and help them along on their journeys?
It's like nothing else in the world, in my opinion. But what I'd like to say is that I think it depends on the person. And in my case, to me, it's absolutely something that I want to do all day, every day. I think perhaps for other people it may not be the case, and it really depends on the person. Depends on who you are, how you are, what your character is, and how you are. What your temperament is, what your patience level is, what your ability to listen to people is, and ability to actually tolerate stress and be able to take certain negative energy and not let it destroy you yourself personally, instead sort of grab it and be able to reflect back to the person. So to me, it's an absolute, as you know that saying that if you do what you love, you're not going to work a single day in your life. That's what I found with this. And as I said, I've done other things in life where I had not felt the same way. At this point, I feel like I'm not really. When I'm actually in session, I'm actually speaking with a person. I completely lose track of time, which is somewhat problematic in this business. But at the same time, I find it so invigorating and so helpful that I simply enjoy doing it.
What are some of your methods?
Oh my God, there's so many, I'll tell you. But my first number one, the big thing that I always kind of focus on is connecting with the person, being able to establish that what they call rapport, but establish a connection where a person knows that I truly do care, person knows that I truly am listening. I'm able to help, but more than able, I'm able to help, and I'm willing to help. In other words, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be part of the story, and able to provide not just feedback, but actually arouse certain emotions and certain things deep inside where this person can feel the change, feel the impact. And that's what this is all about. So I use a lot of methods. I use a lot of cognitive methods. I use a lot of what's called motivational. I'm typically considered a positive psychologist. Let's call it that. What that means is I kind of focus and utilize the positive things about a person and focus on them rather than focusing on the negative traits or negative events and this and that. So, but again, it's obviously, I'm simplifying it. It really depends on the case, really depends on the person, really depends on what we're talking about. So it gets complicated. But I don't keep myself restrained to one particular direction and one particular methodology. I just kind of basically want to see what works in each case. And in the matter of individual person, it may be completely different, let's say, than it is in marriage counseling or let's say in family therapy, which are all the things that I do. In fact, I love marriage coaching, marriage counseling. I think it's a tremendous field, and to me, it's somewhat of a natural direction as well.
Have you seen when you work with your clients, their confidence level rise as they go through the process?
Yeah, I'll tell you, almost always, almost. I don't want to say 100%, but most of the time, I'm able to see that connection in their eyes. I'm able to see them kind of respond and react. And it's in this. I want to tell you, in this field, it's a very simple test because either the person will connect with you or they will not connect with you. And there's no way to fake it. There's no way to fool yourself and say, well, I think I've done a great job. No, because then the person simply will not work with you, simply will not come back, or simply will not refer someone else. Or, in other words, it's a very simple method to see how effective you are in this profession. So there's two parts to it, obviously. As I said, you yourself have to be of the right makeup, so to speak. Right, you have to be the right type of a person to want to do this to begin with. And then obviously the second part is when you see people respond and connect with you and go with what you are suggesting and responding and searching deep inside sometimes to to change, to improve or to cause a change in itself.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
That's a great question, and I do more sessions. I do. It's a really weird, and a lot of people ask me this exact question, and it's hard to explain. As I mentioned, it might be just the way I am. I don't get. Sometimes I speak to people that have gone through some really, really, horrible things. I speak a lot. I don't know if I mentioned previously. I work a lot with veterans. I work a lot with people that have suffered from PTSD and from anxiety or horrifying life events. And sometimes when I listen to them, it's impossible not to react. But I really feel like I'm probably that type of a person where I'm able to take it, but it doesn't stay with me to the level where it affects me. So I'm able to do that, and I actually enjoy doing it. But to me, it's almost like an addiction in a way. And I know it's a dangerous word, but in the positive sense of it, I'm addicted to seeing that reaction when I'm actually able to help someone. It changes me, and I can't wait for the next ability to do that again. So no, I don't really, in terms of sessions, I don't have to do anything for my own mental health. It just the ability, the reaction, the success of a particular case to me is really what it's all about. And this is, I mean this entirely sincerely. I don't think anyone should be doing this or can be doing this unless they truly want to be in this field, because it is very taxing. It's very difficult if you're not in this frame of mind.
Yeah, with veterans, I talk to a lot of veterans and they bring up some of the challenges they face going back to civilian life. How does it feel for you to just listen to veterans and help them?
It's probably one of the most rewarding, one of the most greatest moments when I'm able to work with them, because I see, as you said, they have a tough time adjusting back to civil life after being in the service. One of the major things they talk about is lack of respect, the lack of recognition,
Right.
or in the service or in the army or Marines, anywhere they were. There's a great deal of camaraderie and they're able to connect with people, but they watch each other's back, so to speak, and they see this. Anyone they speak with is addressed with respect, with equality, and a level of recognition as a fellow human being. A lot of times, especially in today's society, they don't have that, and that affects them really, really badly. I'm able to. I'll tell you, with them, what I've noticed is the main thing is to listen and to sort of validate what they talk about, because I think it's important to specifically, and I agree with that standpoint. So I'm able to validate what they say, and I feel like it makes a big difference for them, because they want to be recognized, rightfully so, for what they have sacrificed for this country. And I feel like it's the least we could do. It's the very least we can offer them is that type of validation, that type of recognition. And I feel like it makes them suffer a bit less from that, even if they end up facing disrespect again. There's a bit of a easier time that they have because they already understand it's not everyone, and there's people are different, and yet but people do recognize that someone out there wants to help them and recognizes what they have done. But I'll tell you, working veterans is one of my favorite, again, as I said before, because of what you get as a as a final result, so to speak. In other words, so when you're done with a particular case, or when you kind of are able to change their perspective on what's going on, and get them to be more positive about their own future, about the possibility, about the chances that they have to have a full normal civil life equally as they had in the military. I think that it changes something in them, and I like that. I like that to the level it's hard to describe. Also, besides them, I've spoken quite a bit with a lot of athletes, UFC fighters, and I don't know if you've seen some of the videos I've done where I find a lot of parallels between athletes and veterans because there's a lot of camaraderie, and I see that type of respect that they have for one another. And I see that a lot of fighters would love to speak to the veterans also to support them, to help them, and to kind of encourage them, to do better in the civil aspect of life. And then I think it's highly rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding for me, at least.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
Well, I'll tell you how it works in my view is every day there is something negative to think about and focus on, and there is something positive to think about and focus on. It's a choice. If you sit down and say, well, what's wrong in my life? What's really bad? What's really negative? You'll find plenty of stuff. You'll find a lot of things, I'm sure. There's no doubt, and I will too, and so will anyone else. It's only really a matter of perspective. But if you really, really analyze and think about what may be positive, it may be fewer things that are positive, but they're there. There's always something there, either in your present or in your future, or in something you can do potentially, or now, today, or next month, or whatnot. So I try to basically bring the focus to that, and I tell people, well, you have the next opportunity to do whatever you want to do, but the potential is always yours, and you can't simply say that something is impossible, something is completely all 100% negative. It doesn't work that way. It's a matter of focusing on what you want to choose to focus on. The rest is just discovery, the rest is analysis, and the rest is this decision how to implement it into real life, and focus and utilize it to your own advantage. But I think I basically tell people that it's possible, and I give them real examples, and we analyze. And to me, there's just basically a rational analysis of what's going on, because I would never do some sort of present fake facts and say, well, imagine something. No. In other words, based on what the real circumstances are, there's always something positive to focus on. And that's what I kind of tend to do. I like to always basically revert to that and go and inspect what may be the case in each person.
I like that because I live with bipolar disorder too, and I could just think about all the negatives all day and all that. But, I want to succeed and I want to help others. So I try to think as much positive as I can.
Absolutely. And that's the way, like you said, you can focus on the limitations. You can say, well, I have a bipolar disorder. I have other, whatever limitations are in life or negative things that have happened to me. Okay, you can focus on it. What about the positive? What about, like you said, helping other people? What about something else you can think about that's truly positive in your life? And I really truly believe that each one of us has something unexplored, like something else we may be doing that we just kind of let this negativity shut down for us. And because when you approach something in a negative light, from a negative standpoint, you don't see some of the brighter points up ahead. You know what I mean? It's just really the way we are built. And I think a lot of people are negatively inclined. So it's almost like I always compare it to the escalator that's going down. If you let it, it'll take you all the way down. But if you run up, you can actually keep going up. It just takes effort because your mind negatively goes to the negative on its own if you let it. If you just kind of let your mind wander and just let it just really go there, you have to really almost like physically direct your thoughts to where you think they should be. And that's where I help the most. I'm able to tell people, but that's where that connection comes really handy, where you're able to really connect and people have to believe you, that you're not lying to them, that you're telling them reality that they just may not be seeing based on their perspective. That's all it is.
Where do you want to see your mission in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh my God. So besides this, I've started a nonprofit. Me and several other people started a nonprofit where our idea is to bring mental health and make it available to everyone across the board. No money, no documents. If anyone needs mental health, come get it. If you don't have, and that's actually started based on the veterans. A lot of veterans don't want to file official documents. They don't want to write all the different reports required by VA and all kinds of other stuff. Plus, there's a bit of stigma that I think still exists in that frame of mind, if you know what I mean. And what happens in this case? So based on that, we said, okay, look, let's create an organization, let's create an environment that enables people to seek and obtain mental health resources, even if they don't have money, if they don't have the right documents, if they don't have the right insurance, whatever else. And we set it up. We did it, and my goal in the next few years is to really make it available to as many people as possible, as well as to pull as many resources in terms of counseling support as possible, as well as peer support as well too. But that's my life goal, because I really believe that that's one of the most significant problems in society today. As you read, and stigma is one of the major issues, because people want to come out and say, well, I have mental health issues. A lot of people are still unwilling to come out and say, I do have certain mental health disorders. There's absolutely nothing wrong in acknowledging that and dealing, because a lot of these conditions are absolutely manageable, and you can
Yeah.
live just like physical disadvantages or physical problems. You go to a doctor and you simply deal with them. Same thing here. And so we want to basically work to eliminate that stigma, or work to make such resources available and accessible really easily. And we set up an organization called Compel America, at compellamerica.org, where people are able to just basically approach and just say, look, I want to stay anonymous, but I want to tell you when I'm applying for help, I don't want to really specify too much. I will tell the counselor my circumstances, but I want to keep the rest of it anonymous. I don't want to really deal with anything else. Help me. And we set up an environment where people are able to get such help.